You're listening to How I Met Your Monster, a podcast that explores the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. My name's Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And together we dive into the world of horror to find out how filmmakers have introduced us to our favorite monsters time and time again. This is How I Met Your Monster.
Boss, you opened it. We came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Explorers in further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you Meatloaf! Surprise, Sydney.
Welcome to How I Met Your Monster, the show where we discuss the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. If you're not already subscribed to the show, find us on the podcast platforms. You know them all. You know where to find us. Type our name in, How I Met Your Monster. Click the subscribe button. Click the bell button. I don't know what the buttons all are on all these things, but
I think there's switches and knobs and dials.
But I'm really selling it like, God, this is so like lame, but just do it. But you need to do this to follow the show so that you can hear our voices every other week.
Trust me, if we could have people just like physically follow us, like wherever we go, that would be much easier. But that's just not the landscape we're working in.
Right.
Sorry.
And
never mind.
And if you follow the show and you'd like to support the show, there's no better way than fangoria.com. You can.
Oh, I thought you meant like emotionally support.
Well, this would emotionally support us in the long run.
Yeah.
But just visit shop.fangoria.com/howimetyourmonster. Fill up your cart with whatever you like, magazines, hats, shirts, a subscription, maybe a yearly subscription to Fangoria, and enter promo code How I Met Your Monster at checkout. You get 20% off. You help support the show, and everybody's happy. You'll get a whole bunch of horror content, and we'll be able to continue recording the show for you, which also gives you more horror content and hopefully a few laughs.
Yeah.
But today we are, hopefully, we're not always funny. Sometimes we think we are. But today we are starting a brand new triple feature on folk horror. Danny, what is the name of our triple feature presentation?
Listeners, we are entering the triple feature series of Folk Around and Find Out.
I love a good, is that a pun?
Yeah.
I love a good
derived
pun.
From the Nordic the Nordic phrase from the credo of the ancient family of Schnorfendorf, which is fuck around and find out.
Right.
Oh, got it.
Which that's obviously the English translation. The original Nordic translation is much more romantic and
of course,
dramatic, if you will.
Of course.
Thank you for that history lesson.
You're welcome.
But what monster are we meeting today? What movie did we watch?
We watched The Wicker Man, the classic 1973 folk horror film, not the 2006 remake starring Nicolas Cage. Unfortunately, I know we had some debate about which movie we wanted to cover.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, really quickly, is this a first time watch for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, what's funny is this is one of those movies that I have seen the beginning, the middle, the end, and some various parts in between, but only in like horror documentaries. But
I've never seen any parts.
Seriously?
Of it. I mean, I've seen the burning, like the Wicker Man, the burning thing, like as a picture, but I had never seen any singular part of this movie.
Oh yeah. I also was a big fan of that How Did This Get Made episode on the remake of The Wicker Man, which details the whole plot, which I'm sure is a little different than this one, but
well, that's kind of what I was going to say.
basically
Like, this is also a first time watch for me. And I was most familiar with like, there's like a scene with Christopher Lee down by the beach with like his yellow shirt and his hair. And he's like got his hands raised up. And like, you see that everywhere when they talk about the Wicker Man.
Yep.
So we watched it, first time watch, I really enjoyed it. But then we immediately watched the trailer for the 2006 Nicolas Cage remake just to see, like, because like pops up on Amazon like when you're done, and it looks so, I guess the word is convoluted. It looks so confusing and very, like, this is kind of a simple story. It's like, here it's like the one location, it's simple, there's the thing, and this one takes that and adds like a whole bunch of stuff, and it's very like, it almost seems like more satanic and like more flashes and more ghost visions, and it's fucking looks weird. And I'm so glad that we watched this one instead of that.
Aren't there bees in that one?
Yeah, and so I
remember the bee thing.
He's like screaming about the bees. And so I was waiting for a bee scene in this one because I thought that was part of it, but no.
And this one, it's the hares.
It's interesting. I actually watched like the first half an hour the other day. Why are you laughing?
He was talking about the hares, and then I was thinking about the bees, and I was thinking like they open the coffin and there's just like a bumblebee, like one little bumblebee just like sitting in the thing. Okay, sorry.
Is that Rowan?
I watched the first half an hour of this the other day, and then I finished it this morning. But the first half an hour I wasn't really thrilled about, and I was just kind of like, Then the middle was, this morning, the middle was also fine. The end, I really liked. Obviously, I think you guys
definitely a Casey ending.
Yeah. But along with that, I started to understand more. Well, I started to think more about the, words are good to remember that I can say.
It's early.
Well, it's not really, but it feels like it.
It was earlier.
I started to think more about what the message of the movie was, what I was feeling from it and stuff like that. And I really started to like it more. The only issue was there was a lot, and maybe this is just because it was from 1973, but a lot of things that could have been, that they wanted to be really creepy weren't creepy at all. They were just kind of funny, you know, like that woman when she was singing and she was naked. I feel like they wanted it to be like sexy and mysterious, but it was really just
disorienting.
Like, what the fuck?
I did feel a little disoriented, and I was trying to watch it because I agree.
I just thought,
and maybe it is just a dated thing. We just, our senses have just shifted a little bit and evolved. But I definitely did get the disorientation of it, especially from Sergeant Howie, his perspective, coming in as like the outsider and also as like this devout Christian. So then just the idea that like there's this woman outside being like suggestive, but also naked and but to your point, it's like when you've seen movies that go the extra mile to really a movie that's the most obvious, that has like the most obvious correlation to this one, and obviously was inspired by it, was Midsummer. So, being put into this like pagan setting and with all these rituals and disorientation, that one does it in a way that is so visceral. You really feel it as the audience. You don't even have to get into the shoes of the character. So, you make a good point. I agree.
And all the masks and stuff. I love masks. I think, especially these they were kind of like almost like vintage Halloween masks, like those weird creepy animal faces and stuff like that. But they didn't creep me out like I wanted to be, But the whole setting also there was also a lot of light, and I feel like the whole movie was very, it was always daylight. It was always bright outside. Does that make sense?
Well, and that's the same thing with Midsommar. Like,
but
that's the thing. It's like the aesthetic is like, and even the pacing and the style. And I don't know if this was deliberate, but it almost feels like anti-horror, because if you're looking at it from the perspective of the islanders, this is just a ritual. It's they're not being horrific.
Right.
And I almost feel like you have to let yourself become truly like pure, like completely immersed and like immerse yourself into it in order to feel that sense of like, it's so casual the way people do weird things here that it's cause for concern and alarm.
But I think we'll probably get into it later, but what I got from the movie, I don't know.
Well,
it's like
maybe this will kind of be along the same lines of what I think you're about to say, Casey. I don't know who the monster is in this movie.
Exactly.
Totally.
Exactly. Because it's showing like, yes, this is normal to them, but then when you go into a church with fucking Catholics and Christians, you know, they do some shit that would be completely foreign to those people that they would think was weird.
So I think this is a great segue, Zach, if you don't mind, to kind of like, I have like a little introduction for what folk horror really is. And I think that might help us explore this a little bit more, because folk horror is such a specific subgenre. So with folk horror, this is basically what you're getting. It's going to be touching on cultural traditions, myth, primal fears, especially fear of the unknown, the battle between new and old, isolation, the indifference of nature, the horrors of humanity that are buried in history. And folk horror plays with the idea that no matter how much things and people may change on the surface, the scars of our past never heal and nature never forgets.
Ooh.
Okay, so I know that we're talking about the Wicker Man, but that whole thing just made me really excited to watch Men. I'm just saying.
I know. Oh, there is a reference in this. There's a visual reference in this movie that I was like, Men pulled that 100 completely.
Oh, really?
I don't want to. I'm like afraid to spoil it because I think it might be a spoiler.
Yeah, we'll wait until we watch Men for you to tell us, Danny, what that was. Just remember.
Yeah.
To tell us.
Okay. I'm excited to see that movie. I hear so many good things about that.
Oh, it's great.
What were we just talking? What made me segue into that? We're so forgetful today. What is wrong with us? We were talking about like we were talking about religion and the
and I said I don't know who the monster is in this movie.
Okay, so I was thinking about that too, and it's almost one of those movies where there's going to be so many gray areas, obviously, because it does come down to sort of picking a side. You can be like, I'm on Howie and the Christianity side, full stop. Or I'm on the Islanders and I'm calling them pagans because he called them pagans. I don't know if that's offensive.
I mean, I think that's the.
But I don't think pagans really sacrifice people.
Yeah, like I don't even know. Like it's sort of like the chaos of nature. You know, it's not even the monster. It's like blind faith maybe is the monster in this.
I mean, religion.
Yeah, it's because he even ends
faith.
it by saying like, yeah, maybe this will help you guys. Maybe it won't. If it doesn't, then you're just going to do this again. But if it does, it could have been a coincidence. So then there's no concrete. So blind faith is just this, it creates monsters almost.
Well, because
it's more of a reactionary thing.
Sergeant Howie, which, by the way, I thought for like the first half of the movie that his name was Sergeant Howdy. I thought that was so funny.
Like Captain Howdy.
But he's very hypocritical. Yeah. Because he's talking to these guys saying like, what if this doesn't happen? What if you're wrong? What if you're putting all your faith in this? And then he does, I mean, that's his religion too. He's doing the whole thing. That's
religion, baby.
Like, he's putting his whole faith in God. Like, what if that's wrong? And so, I don't know.
Your God's not going to save you.
It's just the hypocrisy of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is with folk horror, maybe if there are these gods, maybe they do care enough if they're getting sacrifices. But the idea is nature doesn't care.
Right.
Nature will continue to go on without us. If we were to die, it would be fine. It might even thrive. Yeah. You could argue that we are hurting nature, and that's a whole other topic.
I saw a funny thing George Carlin said back, I don't know, in the early 90s or something. He was talking about global warming, climate change way back then. And he was like, we're killing the planet. He's like, we are not killing the planet. We are killing ourselves. Like 100%. The planet is going to be fine. It's the humans that are going to die off. The planet's going to live on. It's like, yeah, exactly.
And that also, it's so funny because that really plays into folk horror is this, we sort of elevate ourselves up as, if we do these things, then we will be rewarded. And it's like, maybe, because it's the whole point of nature is randomness, and it could be randomness for the good, or it could be randomness for like the most foul thing, and you just have to accept it. And in this movie, they constantly bring up the differences between, is it resurrection and, what's the word? When you return?
Reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's like, it's kind of like the same basic principles. It's just a different way of getting there. So they're kind of like fighting the same argument, because at the end of the day, like, everyone's beliefs kind of come back to the same thing. It's just blind faith in something that may be good and may be bad, but there's no way to prove it. And at the end of the day, you're really only going to hurt yourself if you go too hard into it, because you're going to kind of like cripple yourself internally, like just as a human in your soul. You're basically selling your soul. And that's what they're doing. They're selling their souls to these beliefs, and to no one's real benefit, ultimately.
Yeah, he says at the end, he says like, it's I who will live again, not your damned apples, right? So that's what you were saying, how they're all thinking kind of the same thing, but that's, so I'm an atheist, you know?
Sure.
You guys know that. I used to be a Christian until some stuff happened when I was like 16, and I was like, maybe this isn't for me. So, and I don't like dislike religious people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
obviously, sure. I have some people that I'm still very close to that were my youth group leaders and stuff like that. And they're the least judgmental people I've ever met in my life. But a lot of religious people aren't like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, like we said earlier, it's just so crazy to me that religious people, out of all of the religions that basically you're all worshiping the same God, just calling him something else and doing some things a little bit differently. But, you know, they all pin themselves against each other. And then for people to think that like you're smarter than everybody else and that what you believe is better than everybody else. And being an atheist, I have tried to force myself to believe in something at this point. Like, not now, I'm fine with it now. But at one point I was like, it would be so comforting to think that there was a place that I'm going when I die. Yeah. You know? But I can't force myself to do it. And it's just, I don't know.
It's that blind faith that maybe someone will hold the door open for you, you know?
Right.
Like,
but it's all blind faith because there's not proof of anything.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
So every religion, anything that anybody believes is blind faith.
Yeah. And I come at this I'm more of a Catholic turned agnostic, where I'm not as against the idea that there could be something. I am just sitting on the in-between. Like, if it is, great. If it's not, so be it, you know?
Right.
And I think that's the thing that turns me off from it. And if we want to kind of like broaden the term of what religion is to just, you know, there's a reason why cults, you know, a religion and cults sometimes are compared. It's not to say that every religion is a cult. I don't know enough to start that conversation, but it's the idea of convincing someone of something bigger than themselves to devote themselves to, which in my opinion, just personally, seems a little cuckoo bananas. Cause it's like that anyone can be convincing enough to do anything. And if you have no proof, then what are you selling? That said, I think it can be helpful for people. Like, for example, the people on this island in this movie, it is helpful to believe that if they follow these practices and traditions, that maybe this higher power will help them, you know, add some fertilizer to the fucking work they're already doing. It's just like a little bit of a leg up. The problem is, and this movie kind of paints a great, very clear and straightforward picture of how it can go too far, you know, and this can be the case for anything. I mean, look at Christianity. It literally went too far. If you believe in the whole story of Jesus Christ, they fucking nailed him to a cross. Like, it's literally built on sacrifice. Everything is about you have to lose in order to be happy. And you start to go deep down into how religion was used as a form of control between like the classes, where the higher, you know, there's a reason why the church and the Pope was like the highest man on the totem pole, you know, and was maybe the wealthiest, because they would use it to tell people who maybe weren't as educated to say, yeah, believe in this and you'll be good. Just give us some money and you're great. Because first of all, they're not going to fight it. They can't. and it's just easier. And then it becomes compelling and comforting. So it becomes this vicious cycle that it's hard to view something that can potentially be pure and might actually be good for people with like, I guess what I'm saying is it's hard to put a lot of stock and value into something that can just as easily be used for bad as it can be for good.
Yeah.
Right. And but that comes with anything in general. There's bad people. Like, think about police officers are supposed to be good. They're supposed to be taking care of people. There's really great police officers, and then there's really terrible police officers. And it's the same with not just religion, just people in general. You know what I mean? There's always bad and there's always good everywhere in every aspect of everything.
I mean, this movie literally talks about, it brings up apples. It's like bad apples. You know, there's just bad apples sometimes. And
well, I'm curious, and we'll get into this as we talk the movie, but so he said that this season was like the first time they didn't have a crop of apples or whatever since his grandfather settled on the island. Like, so what happened? Like, why did the apples not grow?
That's a good question.
You know what I mean?
It could just be the randomness of nature. It's like, it just didn't, you know? And it's like nature has this hold on us to say, if you believe this, then you better go as far as you think you're willing to go in order to satisfy this need. You know, you want apples. Well, what are you going to do to get it? You know? And it shows kind of how humans are so simple that, like, when we're scared and we're pushed against the wall, we're willing to maybe do whatever it takes to go back to what we're comfortable with, you know?
Yeah.
Something as like simple as an apple. It's like, well, yeah, we'll burn someone alive because we need that. Like, God forbid we don't have these things that are kind of representative of like this cozy lifestyle we've set up for ourselves.
Cozy. Yeah, it's real cozy.
Yeah. It's all just, I don't know. It's all just surface level. Like,
yeah. Well, let's get into the movie. Let's meet our monster, whatever monster that may be. We might figure it out along the way, or we won't figure it out because it's a very
blind faith.
You want to know what I also made a note to myself?
What is your note, Danny?
And I thought this was perfect because it also kind of physically feels like it's in the same vein. But I said folk horror is the essential oils of horror. It's all natural. It might help you, but it will likely give you more problems in the end if that's all you rely on. You know, basically, it's all about balance. And a lot of folk horror removes the balance, you know?
Okay.
Because we try a little too hard and we put a little bit too much into it. And the risk, we increase the risk factor ultimately. And that is folk horror. All
right. I'm into it. I like folk horror.
Me too. It's very
folky.
I don't know. Yeah, it's very folky.
Very folky.
Like the music that opens this movie.
Yeah, that was another thing I think that kind of took me out. The music was cool, right? It was cool. Scottish fun music.
That's the genre. Scottish fun music.
Fun. That one song that kept saying like the corn and the barley or something like this.
Yeah,
something like that.
I could get down in a Scottish pub to some Scottish fun music, but
the songs in this was like if you programmed AI to write you a folk song, it's like the barley and the corn and the apple and the straw and the corn in the fields and we're swimming in the
this was almost a musical at one point. Like,
oh yeah,
for the first like 20 minutes in a row, there was like 4 songs or something.
At the start of one song when they're dancing around the pole, I was like, okay, another song. And then like 3 minutes in, I'm like singing along. I'm like jigging to it. I'm like, wait, don't stop.
Okay, well, let's get into the movie. Danny, before we jump in, please, if you would be so kind, read us the synopsis of The Wicker Man from 1973.
Scooch over. The synopsis is a Puritan police silent night.
I'm just confused. Whose pick was this, Zach?
Zach.
So it's mine.
Right?
This is my episode, so thank you.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
Let me read the synopsis of what The Wicker Man is all about. So this is via IMDb. A Puritan police silent night. A Puritan police sergeant, Sergeant Howdy, no, a Puritan police sergeant arrives in a Scottish island village in search of a missing girl who the pagan locals claim never existed. But okay, let's head to Summerisle and meet the monster of the Wicker Man.
Wicker Man.
This opening felt like I was watching an episode of MASH.
Oh my gosh, you are so right.
Oh, right?
That's funny.
Do, 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 do,
Yeah.
do,
Yep.
do. The helicopter flying
Uh-huh.
over.
Yeah.
No, but we got the Irish folk song that starts us off. It's very like Scottish fun music, like you say, Casey. But I love
Irish folk music, also known as Scottish folk music.
But I got the feeling, like I love the feeling of a movie like this where we as the audience know that this character is in for some shit when he gets to wherever he's going.
Right.
But they're just like taking a journey to wherever the movie's going to take place. And there's the beautiful landscapes and the music. And it just like, it gives you this nice...
It's not just dread.
Yeah, well, like, you know, Danny said, like a cozy feeling.
Yeah, it's not
like
just
a-
you're not. It's not
Yeah.
just full of dread. You're not surrounded by like you know,
Right.
because it's actually
You know-
intriguing. Because
Yeah, you know shit's going to go down. You know
Right.
this character is
Yeah.
fucked, but it's cozy at the same time.
it's so
And
cozy.
it's pretty and it's like you're watching MASH. Exactly. But yeah, so that was a great way to start off this. And it's very 70s, you know, it's very of the time.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, I love the look and feel of this movie.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I know what it is. It's just fucking
I know what it
cinematography and the setting and the clothing and the...
Send a dinghy,
But
please.
God, it is so comforting.
Send a dinghy.
Send a dinghy.
Oh, I kept thinking of the... Quit playing with your dinghy.
Oh, Chris Farley. Oh my God.
But I do love how the movie does just kind of... It just gets right to it. Even though we do have this nice kind of relaxing kind of introduction with the opening credits, he kind of just like right from the get, he lands the plane and he's calling out and he's like, someone called me about a missing person.
Yep.
Like, I'm here. And right away they're like, I don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. So like,
Yeah.
there's no real, it does feel like it has a slow burn, but it actually does get right into it.
Yeah. Yeah. The investigation starts right away. Yeah. You're
Yeah. Which is also a testament to our main character, who is all business.
Mhm.
Like, even when he's at the bar later and they're playing music, he's like, shut the fuck up. I want my food.
And you know what
I want my bed. You all need to stop it.
You know what all work and no play means.
Mm-hmm. Makes Jack a dull boy.
Sure does.
Makes is it Howie?
Makes
Howie a dull
makes Howie a
sergeant.
dull sergeant.
Makes Howie a burn victim.
Yeah, but those guys on the dock there, they're like, he's like, send a dinghy. They're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
They're like, no.
Go away. We don't want you here. Which is funny because they do. Right?
Yeah.
But it plays into kind of the whole theme. They're counting on him to be so gung ho
Right.
about getting
Right.
there because they need a martyr.
Right.
They need him to be the best possible sacrifice. So if he came in willy nilly and didn't come in willy nilly and was like, okay, if you're not gonna, I'm bouncing.
Yeah, and then they would have been shit out of luck because he wouldn't have really wanted to be there doing the quote unquote right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I really like that detail.
But like,
Because
couldn't
it
they still
shows-
have said like, oh yeah, we know her. She's missing. We can't find her. Like, we don't know what happened to her. And she'd still stay? Or did they need him to be like such a good person, quote unquote, good person, that he would like stay?
Yeah, like he still needed to fight through that,
Right?
And assume the worst
Because
out of them.
remember, he had found her grave, so they're like, "Yeah, she's dead." But he wasn't just okay with her
Because
being dead.
at first it's Zach. I don't think it would be enough. There's still enough like doubt.
Yeah.
Like there's still even enough chance that like these guys maybe don't know the person.
Yeah.
So it's enough to be like, all right, well, the seeds of doubt are planted, but I'm gonna still dig into it. And then I think pretty quickly.
So it's like, oh, these people say they don't know her, but here she is. Here's her grave. Here's her in the name in the register. So like now I know something's up. Now I'm gonna get deeper and deeper.
Too deep into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He folked around and found out. You know,
He sure did.
So he goes to the Green Man Inn, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so the Green Man has something to do with the pagan holiday itself. So there was things called May Day parades, which isn't that like a My Chemical Romance something?
First of all, no, that's the Black Parade. May Day Parade is a band.
Oh, May Day Parade
but it
is
does
a band.
sound very like emo.
Yeah.
It's also a distress call.
May Day.
May Day.
Yeah. But like a May Day
also
parade.
A villain, hench person in 007's what is it? A View to a Kill.
His name is Mayday.
Her name is Mayday.
Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have been so sexist. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, villains can't be women.
In a franchise as chauvinistic as 007, how dare you assume it was a man?
Is that Grace Jones?
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
nice.
I could not remember her name.
Okay. I've seen pictures of her in that role.
She's a badass. Best part of the movie, I would say.
But like a May Day parade, it would involve costume characters running around, and there was a May Queen and a Green Man. The May Queen symbolized the goddess of spring, where the Green Man represented the god of the forest. And so he goes to the Green Man Inn, which is way too bright, by the way. Mm-hmm. Like, I know the movie's very bright, like, you know, there's a lot of sunlight and whatnot, but like inside that inn,
A pub.
in that pub, that Scottish pub, should have been darker, and there should have been more wood.
Yes.
Although there was a lot of wood because all those old men were singing that boner song about the landlord's daughter.
And that's the wood.
And that was fucking creepy.
So it's
They're
really
all just
funny
popping stiffies.
because before they started singing that song, my note is, "What's up, Willow?" So
What's up, Willow?
I would have been singing the boner song too. Just saying.
It's funny,
I'm
the
nasty.
brightness of the bar is a testament maybe to their, and this is kind of like a jokes, like, stretch. It's a testament to, like, their insecurities where, like, the whole movie is bright. Like, God forbid things get a little, like, we run out of apples or, like, the sun sets. They fucking freak out and burn someone alive.
I love that you had to say that was a joke.
Because I was like, this is so stupid. As I was saying it.
But yeah, so he's introduced to the landlord's daughter, Willow, who's going to like show him to his room and get him food and whatever. And she's very seductive, right? As we'll see in a little bit, she has her little seductive dance and she does her little Irish jig naked in front of the door while he's sleeping. And
was it a spell? Like, was there a sense of like, because he almost did seem a little enchanted by it. Like,
I think
you could argue
horny.
he was just like fighting his horniness.
Right. And
I know.
But
like there was temptation, but he felt like he was like drawn, like in an almost like, supernatural way.
She was like singing that song and like knocking on the wall and like in like a beat, and they were like playing the music downstairs, and there might have been something there to like,
maybe there was like more of a trance element to it.
I mean, it was, they didn't want him to sleep with her.
Right. And that's what, like, later when I found out that, you know, that was one of the reasons why he needed to be there is because he was a virgin. And
well, they needed him to fight the urge.
Right.
If he was willing to it's almost like they're giving him a series of
He's so pure.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That
that makes sense.
Dang.
So afterwards they're all like, guys, he didn't like fuck her.
Yeah,
like,
he didn't even fuck Willow, you guys.
God, we are doing this is like a good find.
Wow.
Whose idea was this, Bob?
Bob,
The whole
great
Mr.
job,
Graham.
Bob.
Good job, Bob. Up
Great
top,
job.
Bob.
Great job.
He doesn't even go here. But before that, he leaves the inn and he goes outside and he's walking around and there's like this massive orgy in the field.
Yeah.
An orgy, but also like we're watering graves and
This
crying.
woman was weeping
Yeah.
while dry humping a tombstone. I didn't.
Hey, we don't kink shame.
Oh, we don't. But it wasn't like that creepy, weird. It was just silly. To me.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what that test was. If all these are tests, what's that?
I mean,
test?
what
Like,
do you mean?
you
A
think
bunch
he's
of naked
you think
people
he's
out
gonna
there
cry with
fucking.
her?
Well, I think that was like the setup to the test, because that was before she sings her song and does her little dance. And he must have been like seeing all these people and like that horniness started.
You could be
revving
doing
up,
this,
right?
Yeah.
You're getting a little chubby in the pants.
Everybody fucking on this island.
Like,
Ooh.
dude, he was so fucking horny. Like, I don't know if I've ever gotten to that point where I'm like sweating.
Well, he's also a virgin,
Oh yeah,
and he's
true,
like
that's true.
old as fuck.
yeah. He's definitely like a 40-year-old virgin type
He's
situation.
definitely in his 40s.
Yeah. So now he's not only really excited, but he's also even more terrified by the notion of sex. So there's so much.
He's been holding that in for a long time.
Yeah.
So I understand why he's sweating. It's like, I just got to make it one more day.
One more
God.
day.
It's like, why are they burning him? He's got this like pent up seed that he could fertilize the land.
Yeah.
I'll give you some apples. How you like them apples?
That's the end of the movie. It's just him coming and then it cuts to black.
Like in Scary Movie when he fucking he like fountains and like sticks her to the ceiling. It's just like,
Yes, yeah.
It becomes, he blasts all the paganists out of the way and then runs away.
it's like it's fucking you're driving and you like look into a field and there's like those irrigation things.
We talking about sprinklers?
Yeah, but they're like long and they're on wheels, and they like cover a whole bunch of crops all at once.
Crop dusting?
He's on a bicycle riding past it, just spraying gum. That's his big escape plan.
Well,
Oh my god. But he survives the night. He doesn't explode. And the next morning, Willow was like, "Hey, I was waiting for you. Like, what were you doing?" And then she gives him another little thing to like make sure that he is a good person or whatever. She's like, "You won't want to be here on May Day. So like, you might want to get out of here because you're not going to want to be here." And
which
then
is
he's
obvious. Like, I'm gonna want to be here on May Day.
Yeah. Another little thing to make him stay. So when he starts exploring,
which is funny, it's the temptation. He is tempted, which goes against that's like one of the big like Christian Catholic sort of. I wouldn't say it's a deadly sin, but
yeah,
it's sort of the.
Well, in Christianity,
the
all sins are
framework,
equal.
I guess. Yeah.
But like even
Well,
like that night when he's like praying and he's hearing the music and like it keeps cutting to him like a in his head or a flashback of him getting communion, and they're talking about the body and blood of Jesus. And
I just realized that the whole thing with the apple and like Adam and Eve being tempted.
oh
to
my
eat the
god!
apple.
And I just realized that now when you just said it.
Really,
Yeah.
I knew it. Sorry that I
that
hadn't
together.
mentioned it yet. But
Dang. Okay. Yeah. The temptation, the apple.
But it's funny that there's no apple. So it's like he's being tempted, but also he's being denied the temptation. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like there's something to unpack there.
When he's like going to search for a thing and then he sees like this tomb or something that has like a bunch of broken apple boxes on it, and he like slams them off the thing and he's like, "Fuck, where's the apple?" It's like, there's like one apple on the island that he needs to find.
It's the whole search. That scene when he's opening the grave to find Rowan, he's like, there's that 1 second where he's like, maybe there's an apple. Maybe this is the apple. And he's like, motherfucker.
Yeah. This whole thing would be a great NES game like Zelda.
Yes.
The Wicker Man, where he's like going around the
You have
island.
to collect apples to power up.
But he sees he's going around the town and he sees that the maypole and all the
dick.
boys are yes,
Yep.
the penis pole, the peenie pole. And
Is that before or after the classroom scene?
that is before, because in the classroom she tells him what the maypole. Well, she tells the kids what the maypole represents, and then he's like, "Wait a second, you can't teach kids that."
Yeah,
Gotcha.
But that song that dude is singing, he's like something about like a bird on a limb and a limb on a tree, and
and the trees on the corn and the corn's in your mouth.
Isn't it about planting a seed?
The earth and
because then he's like, and then there's a man or a woman, and there's a man on the woman, and there's a seed on the thing. But yeah, it keeps getting faster, and like Danny, like you said. Like I started singing it.
In the woods there grew a tree, and a fine, fine tree was he. And on that tree there was a limb, and on that limb there was a branch, and on that branch there was a nest, and in that nest there was an egg, and in that egg there was a bird, and from that bird a feather came, and of that feather was a bed.
It's funny when you watch movies where you're like, oh, if I was that character, I would get out of there. You know, you kind of put yourself in their perspective. But then in this case, we're all like suckered into disorienting. And we're like singing like that, or like dancing. Like, no, I wouldn't leave
Step
either.
aside, boys. Give me one of those ropes.
Like, is that
you got
Zach
room for one more?
He's just running around.
What I noticed when he does go into that classroom, he's wearing his uniform the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He loves to tell people that he's a police officer.
Oh my god!
Have you guys noticed? He gets like super proud.
Oh yeah,
he's like,
which is funny because pride is another
sin,
thing that's frowned upon. Yeah. So there's temptation, pride.
But he's very proud. He's very proud.
Yeah. Well, he thinks he can come
really
in, and that's kind of like with the whole thing with like Christianity, and you know, some people say it's like a cult and all this stuff. Like he comes in being like, I'm a police officer. Yeah. I can do like what I'm doing here is what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. I am right.
Yeah.
You will listen to me.
Right.
And he's kind of like coming into their territory and being like, this is the way it is. And, you know, you kind of get that where some people are like, you know, it's taking over fucking the government and everything, where it's like, this is God's way. This is the way it needs to be done.
Yeah, he's doing it as a police officer and as a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not this like personal journey that he's on, or he's like no, like Zach, what you said, like it's official, like this is all like one and the same.
Right
yeah he goes into the classroom, and they that girl that has the beetle in the desk, first of all, he's the beetle, second of all,
oh shit,
why does that girl look like
I need to watch this movie again.
Why does that 10-year-old girl look like she's 40?
She did look very old. Yes.
Do you guys notice? They were having trouble casting. They're like, oh shit, we need another student in here. Well, just
the script supervisor here. Put this wig on.
I was gonna say, pull Deborah off the lights and shove her in here, please.
What if it was just the actor who plays Sergeant Howie, who just comes to him in a wig? We didn't have a lot of people on set that day.
He's like really like hamming it up to try to put into the fight. He's like batting his eyelashes.
Oh man. Yeah, that's good.
Oh god. But yeah, so okay. Earlier, back when he was in the Green Man Inn and they're singing the Boner song, he sees that the one picture of that year's crop winner or whatever the fuck is missing. And then we see the empty desk, and he's like, okay, he's starting to put the things together. And he's like, whose desk is that? Mm-hmm. Give me that register. And she's like, no. And he's like, I'm a police officer. You're going to do what I say.
Yep.
And there it is right in there. Rowan Morrison. And you're like, oh, shit.
Yep. So now the seeds of doubt are just, now it's a conspiracy.
Oh, but we did skip over one little part when he goes to see Mrs. Morrison.
Yeah.
And he meets Myrtle, who's like, oh, yeah, I know Rowan. She's a hare. She's running around the fucking fields. Yeah. She's great. And you're like, wait a second. Okay, what's going on?
Honestly, the reason that I wanted to mention that was because I loved their little candy people. little cake things that looked like people.
Oh, I didn't see the
And that
people.
was
I saw
creepy.
the hairs.
yeah. And then like later they're like cutting it
yeah.
and like cutting slices.
Oh, I remember that scene. Okay, yeah.
That's all.
And they even make like later in the movie, you'll see they make like the bread man. There's like the wicker man and the bread man. He like gets pulled out of the oven. He's like a big loaf of bread. It looks like a person.
I'm hungry.
So he talks to the 40-year-old girl student, and then the teacher, which for a while I thought was Willow. They look very similar.
Well, yeah, they're fucking, what's the word?
Maybe they're incestuous.
No, they're just,
neighbors.
What's that word for white people? They're just Anglo-Saxon.
Basic.
Oh, basic. Yeah, pretty much.
Basic Anglos.
But she takes him outside and they talk, and she's like, yeah, Rowan is real, but she's dead. She has returned to the earth. She is one with nature now. And then you start the whole thing about like reincarnation and resurrection and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they do, we were kind of joking around about the boner talk, but when they talk about the phallic symbols and how it's like really important for their religion, she really like makes it a point that it's supposed to reflect like the generative force of nature.
Right.
So we're kind of like telling him everything he needs to know about like where they're coming from, because their whole like reason for him being there is for that. So it's like, there it is. There's our thesis.
They're stroking nature's dick.
Yeah. Pretty
to
much.
try and get crops.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a great point.
Yeah.
Good way to look at it.
And so now that he knows that she's dead, he goes on a search for her grave and he finds it. And there's a little gift on top of it. There's a little tree planted on her grave. And guys, what is hanging here? Trivia. What is the gift hanging from dead Rowan's little tree?
Is it her umbilical cord?
It sure is a navel. What do you call navel string? Is that what he called it?
Oh, that's right. Yes, I was wondering. I was like, I know they didn't say umbilical cord. Why do I have umbilical cord written down?
For anyone who is listening to this and hasn't seen it, it's like long, stringy beef jerky.
Yeah.
Huh.
But what's funny to me is that couldn't have been her umbilical cord.
No, it would be all
maybe
shriveled
it was
up.
because there's so much
shriveled
dried
and
up.
dried up.
They preserve so much in this movie, and there's such an emphasis on it.
Yeah,
like they show all the dried foreskin, which is fucking sexy.
What would a fucking general store be without a large jar of foreskins?
Listen, you guys know that I loved that.
Dried foreskin.
I mean, his whole little setup there. He had that little two-faced kitten and the big fetuses. Come on, guys, come on.
Yeah,
that's what my house looks like.
You have a jar of foreskins in your
I wish
house.
I had a jar of foreskins. They're good for your.
It's interesting. I know
print.
we're like again joking about it, but isn't circumcision not like very big in Europe? It's a very I don't know, like
I think
just from like the basic knowledge that I have of it is.
Yeah, I think it's like it's like a Jewish thing.
It is a Jewish
like British
thing,
boys got the uncut dick,
which is interesting when you think about the whole religion thing in this Jewish, because not only Jewish people do it,
but it makes you wonder like if that has some kind of tie to them being religious, because that isn't as common within like I'm coming at this just from like my very rudimentary knowledge of circumcision in Europe, and the fact that this is a very British movie.
In Samoa, they do circumcisions when you like hit puberty.
Oh,
yeah.
Nope.
It's funny.
And then they make you go sit in the salt water.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about circumcision personally. Like the older I get, I'm like, why did someone snip off?
It's weird.
Like what?
It's real weird.
Kind of like obviously like now if I look at like an uncircumcised penis, there's just like it's different than what I personally know. But then I'm like, wait a minute, that's what a dick looks like. Why am I like
exactly? And it's just
do you know what I
weird.
mean? Like that's what it is. Like why did they do that to me? And
it's weird because we're about like body autonomy and stuff like that, but people don't think a lot about how circumcision is so weird. Like you're taking a baby and you're cutting the tip of his fucking dick off. What?
Yeah.
And I've heard, they say that it's there are some health benefits.
No, you
and
just
health
have to
factors
fucking clean yourself. Just take a fucking shower.
Exactly.
So weird.
Because it also serves like so many purposes. I don't know. It's just, it does create this like weird otherness to it and insecurities around it. So do you know what I mean? Like it should just, I don't know. It's a weird, we're talking a lot about like tradition and religion. And I'm not trying to say like, this is not me stepping on people's religious beliefs. Like if that's part of your culture and religion, like by all means, like love it. 2 thumbs up. I just do think it's interesting how we kind of get sucked into these norms.
Circumcision.
2 thumbs up for circumcision.
We get sucked into these. We get sucked into these like traditions and these norms without questioning it. Yeah, and that's kind of the principle of this movie.
Yeah,
for both sides. We were saying like, who's the monster here? But it's true. It's just one of those things. It's the fact that you don't really think about such a strange and specific thing that we do to ourselves physically.
Yeah,
lends so much weight to literally what this movie is trying to say.
It's true. Yeah.
I'm
glad that the foreskins got us there.
The foreskins really got us. With
it really sidetracked us.
It's scary because when you put it in that perspective, though, that's like, I get it. You always say like, how can people get suckered into this stuff? There it is. It just becomes the norm. And when you're just, when something is repeated in such a normal fashion, like, of course you're not going to question it. Why would you?
Yeah. Where were we?
Okay. Hot dog talk with the boys.
Hot dog talk with the. This has been Hot Dog Talk with the boys.
Do you like your sausage cut or
with natural casing?
Natural casing.
Sarge, these islanders like it crispy.
Crispy.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I wonder, if they if part of the festival after burns down so far that they start roasting hot dogs and marshmallows.
I would hope that they eat those roasted animals in there.
Like, oh yeah. Should we eat them?
Yeah.
Someone takes a fork and they're like, "Is anyone looking? Is this weird, or are we okay with this?"
One little tidbit that is specific to Summerisle, I would say, is the little frog that they put in Myrtle's mouth to take her sore throat away.
So, is that why they're doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, she puts it in her mouth and she holds it.
She had a frog in her throat, so now they're putting a toad in her mouth.
She's like, okay, spit it out. She's like, he's like, now your sore throat's gonna be gone, basically. And
I was gonna say, I know in Egyptian stuff that frogs represent rebirth. And I didn't assume necessarily that they had the same thoughts because Egyptian and Summerisle, but I didn't realize it was for her sore throat.
Yeah, because then she puts it back in the thing and she's like, now he's croaking. Now he's got the croak, and then the frog's like,
it's like, yeah, because you just put him in my mouth.
He's not happy.
Pissed.
He's freaking the fuck out.
I don't know if you've ever held a toad or a frog like that. They usually pee. And so she probably put it in her mouth and then fucking peed.
So maybe there's nutrients in the pee that killed the. It's like you don't have a sore throat, but you have rabies now.
Yeah.
Do toads get rabies? Imagine a rabid toad.
I don't think amphibians get rabies. I think only mammals can.
Yet.
So on his way to Sergeant Howdy, I'm going to call him that. Sergeant Howdy leaves the foreskin dealer. And he's going on his way. He's going on his way to meet Lord Summerisle. And on his way, he sees this bonfire ritual with naked ladies, and they're doing a dance and doing all this stuff.
The baby grow dance.
That's the baby grow dance.
Yeah.
And so part of that, let's see, I have a thing about bonfires here.
So bonfires.
So
can I tell you guys something really quick that I think is really funny? So when I was in high school, I went to Northwestern up in good old Albion, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And every year, and this is just absurd to me thinking about it now, every year we would have bonfires outside of the school for homecoming week. But it would be I'm talking seniors and juniors would each have their own bonfire. and we would collect things. And when I say bonfire, I mean that we would have pallets stacked 30 feet high and huge, and set them on fire in front of the school for homecoming.
You guys were like fucking Nazis.
Yeah, I'm like, how did this happen? Like, what? Yeah. Why are we doing this?
I vaguely remember people like collecting like furniture and stuff to take to those.
It's
to those
crazy.
things.
It's such a weird thing to think of. I doubt they do it anymore, but like, holy shit, man. 2006, 2007.
Maybe it was a pagan ritual.
Maybe,
and you just didn't know it.
Up in Albion, Pennsylvania, all those wonderful rednecks are probably pagan.
Because what they were doing here, they were like, it was like a fertility thing. They were like bringing the babies, and so I have here. It said that they used to represent the sun's growing strength and are believed to purify and protect. People would jump over and between the flames as a form of purification and to bring good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were like jumping over, like, and that was supposed to bring them luck and fertility and whatever.
When does May Day take place? Is it like
May
the
1st.
solstice or?
So May Day is, it's known as Beltane, also known as May Day. It's the pagan holiday celebrated on May 1st. It marks the halfway point between the spring equinox and the summer solstice.
Okay.
And it is a festival of fertility and the blossoming of spring.
Okay. So it is kind of like.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's May Day. It's like the first day of May. Hey, it's May Day. But this really pisses off Sergeant Howdy because he's like, they must have been like teenagers or something, because he was like, you have naked kids jumping over bonfires. They look like grown women to me, but that's what he said.
Yeah.
So he goes to meet Lord Summerisle. The Lord, I'm going to call him Somerville from now on, which is Christopher Lee. And I forgot that he was in this. I mean, I had seen like the pictures of him, but like I never like put it together. And then when he starts talking, I'm like, wait a second. That's Christopher
He's so
Lee.
good. He's my favorite part of this movie.
That's Count Dooku.
No, it's Casey's gonna rip your throat out.
That's Saruman, Zach.
Okay. Saruman, yeah. Sorry, I'm more of a Star Wars guy than a Lord of the Rings.
And guys, it's Dracula, Lord
Dracula.
Vampire of the Vampires.
Vampire of the Vampires.
He's
That's his official.
He's the
name.
Dracula of the British Hammer films. Yeah. Yeah, so we meet Lord Summerisle, played by Christopher Lee, and it was like when he starts talking and like explaining all about May Day and their rituals and all this stuff, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
in.
Wait a second. And then Sergeant Howdy is all like fucking, but what about God? And what about Jesus? And what about this? And it's like, well, what about their thing? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what? Why are you right?
Well,
he's like the embodiment of like the traditional colonizer. You know, he comes in, cannot even fathom that someone can have a belief outside of Christianity and Jesus.
But that brings it back to it all being the same kind of thing. Like if you think about praying is the same as manifesting. Praying is the same as positive energy. Praying is the same. You know what I mean? It's all the same thing. You're just calling it a different name.
100%. The only thing that gets in the way is just ego. Yeah. It's like the fact that you can't fathom. Like, who gives a shit? Who cares? Who cares?
Right. Well, that's what I meant when I said earlier, people thinking that what they believe is better than everybody else.
And the sad thing is there's people in charge who are telling them to be like so extreme for no reason, really, that there cannot be another.
Right.
Instead of just being like, hey, guys, you might run into people who think differently. It's fine.
Right.
You believe what you want.
Right.
But it reminds me of that. We were talking about, you were mentioning George Carlin. Another great stand-up that's relevant to this is Patton Oswalt did this great sketch about sky cake. Have you guys ever heard that?
No, but I want some.
He basically compares religion to cake. And it's like, he just goes into these bits of people like screaming at each other. He's like, but my sky cake is better than your sky cake and your sky cake. And
like just how ridiculous it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah. Highly recommend.
So after he meets Lord Somerville, God damn it, Summerisle, and
Saruman.
Saruman.
You're really struggling with this name.
Lord, after he meets Saruman-Dooku, he goes, and this is where he digs up Rowan's casket, because he's like, hey, I've been asking you, I'm going to dig up her grave. Like, what the fuck? And Lord Summerisle's like, I thought I already gave you the go ahead. Like, go fucking do it.
He's like, all right.
Which he wanted him to do, right?
Yeah.
And so then we open it up and we see that there is a hare, a fucking rabbit.
Yes.
Not a piece of hair.
Right.
In the casket. And it's like, and then we're kind of thinking like, okay, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? I don't know. For me anyways, it was like, there was all this stuff about going back to nature and this, and it's like, did she fucking turn into a rabbit? Like, did they?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like, transfer her soul or whatever. I don't know. I like something beyond my fucking brain capacity is going on here. But so this is that. So then he gets like pissed and he goes into the foreskin dealer's shop and he goes into the photo, because that guy was a photographer too.
Right.
And he develops a photo. Like, he automatically knows how to develop a piece of from a negative. It's like fucking funny. And he sees that the missing photo of this year's crop festival, whatever, is Rowan and empty fucking basket of apples. So he's like, the crops failed, Rowan failed. They're gonna like fucking do something. Right.
Right.
So then he knows that they're gonna sacrifice her. Like, he knows she's alive and he knows they're gonna sacrifice her. He like connected all the fucking dots.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going back to the mainland and I'm coming back with a fucking SWAT team, basically. On his way, Casey, you were talking about the animal masks earlier.
Yeah.
On his way out to the plane that doesn't end up working, these people pop up from behind the bushes with the animal masks on. And I was like, I thought two things. I thought, oh shit, something's going down. And two, I thought The Shining. Immediately thought of The Shining with those two ghosts in the, like, one dude getting a blowjob in the fucking
yeah.
And they wear those fucking masks and they're looking down the hallway like, come on in. But then more townspeople show up and we start seeing everybody wearing these masks and realizing it's we know it's May Day, but these are all part of their festivities. And Sergeant Howie, I should call him the right name. Sergeant Howie starts searching all the fucking places on the island for Rowan. And he even walks in on a lady taking a bath in a very small bucket.
More temptation.
I thought it was too big, but
thought the bucket was too big.
I like to fill a cereal bowl with water and do my thing.
Just put a butt cheek in it.
And there was that guy in the fucking like costume with like the dragon thing on the end that kept like snapping at him. And it was like a cartoon. Like he would like run down the hallway and then like he'd be somewhere else and he'd like, it's like going in one door, out the other door. And, fucking Tom and Jerry. Yeah, Scooby-Doo. He kind of gives up his search. He's exhausted. He goes back to the Green Man Inn and he's like, I don't know why he does this. He knows the fucking townspeople are fucking crazy. And he goes to Willow and the landlord and he's like, I'm going to take a nap. Please don't disturb me.
Yeah.
Like, why would you sleep right now? What?
I'll be asleep from the hours of 10 and 10:30. Do with me what you will.
So Willow and her dad, the landlord, he has a name, but I forget it. They go and they're like sneaking into his room and he's like, they're like, oh, like he's asleep. They're like, this is the time to do it, whatever. And he's really not asleep. He hears everything that's going on. But she lights a candle and puts it next to his bed. And he wakes up and he looks and it's a hand.
Oh, yeah.
With all the fingertips have like wicks on
What
them.
would you call
like,
that? A handle?
Yeah.
It's a handle.
A candle?
It's a
on
wax
hand with
handle.
a handle. Yeah.
But that was pretty crazy. I did not expect that at all.
Yeah.
No.
And I wonder if it was from that guy, like he opened the casket earlier, just like a scene before.
He doesn't have a hand.
And there was like a dude with no hand. Yeah.
Oh,
So that
my
must have
God.
been it.
I did not even put that together.
That must have been it. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
And so here's where shit's going down. The May Day parade is starting. the festivals have begun. He steals the costume from the jester costume. He's supposed to be like the town fool. Yeah, the fool.
Yeah.
Which
he kind of is a fool.
he is. Yeah.
Yeah. But I loved the visuals of that parade.
Oh yeah.
With like Christopher Lee with like the long wig, long-haired wig, and the face painted, and they're dancing and
getting ready for his Saruman role.
Oh yeah.
He's like, is this wig? Maybe we lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think I would.
But that's so like it was just very like the visuals and the music, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I think
there
that,
we go.
You know, I'm really harping on this. Like, I wanted things to be more creepy. The one part that did creep me out was just the camera was steady, and then they were just all walking in like two lines around the camera, you know? And so that was like the creepiest bit for me. So I liked that little part.
Okay.
I mean, I liked the whole movie, but that part was
and maybe that's
creepy.
what the movie needed. Like, you need to let it kind of marinate so that it can get under your skin.
Well, like I said, I was kind of like not very thrilled for the first like half of it. And then I started really thinking, I'm like, oh, this is just about religion and how silly it looks. Every religion looks so silly compared to every other religion, depending on what religion you're part of. But,
another bit that I thought was pretty cool was the swords that were all like in a
that's maybe my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And they were like
and put their heads in.
Game.
chop,
Yep.
chop, chop.
Yep.
Oh my God.
That was tense.
That was
so tense.
Yeah.
And like at the time you don't know it, but they're not going to cut his head off.
Yeah.
You know, but he's really nervous about it, but they've got better things in store for him.
And Saruman's like, you gotta do it, dude. I'm sorry.
Everybody's got to do it.
So did they know that he was in that outfit at that point?
Yeah.
They knew.
That's part of the whole plan.
They're like, look at this fool. Fucking idiot.
But yeah, it's just they literally had everything planned. He was a quote unquote very pure man, police officer. They knew exactly what he was going to do at every turn. He was going to do what he had to do to stay there. The jester guy was probably put there as bait for him to see him and be like, well, I got to get into this parade. They knew he wasn't just going to show up.
Yeah.
And they needed
Do you
to
think
get
the
him to Rowan.
handle was to like weird him out?
Handle.
Like, was it just a symbol thing to like freak him out? It must represent something. Maybe it was both. Maybe it serves dual purposes. Like, it actually is part of their rituals, but it's also like, let's really just like put this all up in, center stage.
Yeah.
Freak him out.
Well, hey, that's putting a lot of faith into him.
Yeah.
They got a lot of faith into him that he's going to do what they want him to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Blind faith.
Oh my God.
you know,
This movie like a masterpiece,
if somebody
guys?
wants to do the right thing, then they're pretty predictable.
The music that they should have played on the credits to this movie should have been Faith.
By Limp Bizkit?
Not by George Michael, by
Limp Bizkit. What do you mean George Michael? George Michael didn't. No, there's only one version of that song, and it's Limp Bizkit.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding, because the George Michael Faith song is one of my favorite songs ever. But
No, they don't. They should have put Faith
Can we end
by
this episode
Limp
with
Bizkit, but they put like the fucking Nookies song in there. But so the Chop Chop game, they cut off the head of a person, but it was just like not their real head, right?
yeah, she was
Weren't
wearing
they,
a big
like, in a
like deer
suit?
costume.
Was that a goal? Did they know? Because they all did seem pretty nervous and relieved when.
Yeah, they did. They were all like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know,
That's a good.
because I
Maybe
think it was
some
just
years-
whenever the music stopped, it was like that's when they did it.
Oh.
Interesting.
Because like I wouldn't put it past them to cut somebody's head off, one of their own, because they are sacrificing somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know. But we do find out now that Rowan is alive and she is to be sacrificed. She is up on the thing and up on like the little hill thing.
Yep.
And this is where Sergeant Howie is like, fuck, this is my chance. I gotta go save this girl.
Yep.
So he's like, he goes up there and she's like, oh, thanks. I've been waiting for someone to save me. These people are crazy. Come in this dark cave with me.
Yeah.
And she's like, I know a way out. And then they find their way out the cave, out this like hole in the ground. And guess who's waiting for them?
Saruman.
Saruman.
Lord
Lord Dr.
Isleville.
Lord Summerisle
Count Dooku.
Dooku Saruman. Mon.
Darth something. He's a Darth, isn't he?
He's
a Darth.
What's up, Darth?
Party on, Wayne.
But they're all
Darth Garth.
they're all waiting for him. Is because it was all a whole setup, and Rowan was actually just part of the whole plan.
She was rowing the boat to his demise.
That's right. Yep. And this is where it all comes together, and then you find out that they wanted him the whole fucking time.
God damn it.
So crazy. I didn't see that coming.
I knew that he was going to be the one that was sacrificed, but I didn't know how they were going to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
And I don't know if that's subconsciously because I knew anything about the movie, or if it was just a good guess, or if it was because I knew that I think it was more like the 2006 remake. I've seen like the bees part and the over actor that is Nicolas Cage. So I was like thinking that Nicolas Cage died in that movie. So
okay.
You know what I'm saying?
See, I didn't know that I figured he was going to be like the sacrifice, whatever, but I didn't know that it actually like went through and like that he burned up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought maybe, I still thought there was a chance that he would somehow get out. But then I'm like, wait a second. He's the only one on this island who doesn't want to be there.
There's nobody on his
there's
side.
no way he's getting out of this.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the similarities between different religions and all this stuff and Christianity. And when they have him dressed in the white and they're walking him to the Wicker Man, it is just like that whole story of Jesus carrying the cross to his, to carrying the cross to where he's gonna fucking
Well, that's like what Casey was saying about how at the end of the day, like we're all they're doing the same things, just like with slightly different shades.
Yeah.
Which makes it all the more frustrating when they're so like adamant that like theirs is the real one. It's like,
yeah.
Well, and then he'll be reincarnated and they'll get their apples. So everything's cool. Or he won't be reincarnated. He'll go on to live with Jesus and they'll get their apples. So
everybody wins.
Win-win.
It's all good.
Yeah. Jesus is like, sorry about that, dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
You're a real one.
Okay. I didn't see that one coming.
It is time for the How I Met Your Monster conspiracy theory of the week.
Yeah?
Hit it.
You're telling me that NASA is going to kill the President of the United States with an earthquake.
Not exactly the kind of thing a Secret Service agent can like just throw himself on top of.
The whole Vietnam War was fought over a bet. Howard Hughes lost to Aristotle Onassis.
This is our third issue this year. Conspiracy theory.
Dude, okay. They burn Sergeant Howie.
Yes.
He wants resurrection. They want their fucking apples. Sergeant Howie goes to heaven and God's like, thank you, Howie. Wait, what's his first name? Or is his first name Howie?
Sergeant.
They're like, Sergeant.
He's not even a cop.
Sarge, you did great down there.
Great job.
I am going to reward you with returning to the earth. You will be forever known as Johnny Appleseed.
Johnny Appleseed. Yes. I knew you were going to say that.
And Johnny
He's like,
Appleseed.
I don't know how I feel about this. It's going to keep making me think about the island and my death.
And so he gets resurrected.
They get the apples.
They get the apples. They think their sacrifice worked. Johnny
Well,
Appleseed becomes a legend.
It did work because, again, they're all doing the same thing, right? They're still all praying the same God, calling him something else. They're sacrificing technically, to their God, but it's still Jesus, right? So they can get their apples. So, yeah, makes sense.
So then in the cycle, do they sacrifice Johnny Appleseed? Is that what happened to him the next year? Or
no, next year everything was fine.
Oh, so they don't need to. Okay.
No, it's good.
What if they sacrifice someone while the crops are thriving?
Well, they wouldn't do that because that would be wrong.
That would be surplus.
Yeah,
that
would be
food.
That'd be selfish and not okay.
So they don't need to sacrifice every year.
No.
That would be a fun story if you find out like the twist is that the crops were fine, but like the sadistic leader was like hiding it just so he could kill someone. And then ultimately it ends up
he's in the Wicker Man and the flames are coming up and they all like bust out these big bags of apples and start throwing them at him.
He's like, wait, you motherfucker. He's like, there was a semblance, a little hint of me who was okay with this for the mere fact that I can help you.
Yeah, sacrifices
Now I'm just
are only used when things aren't going well.
Okay.
Because you're trying to make God please them. You're trying to please the gods.
Okay.
And then otherwise it's murder.
Yeah.
Well, it's murder anyway, but
No, it's not. Casey, do you not understand this movie? God. It was for God.
It was for the sun god.
the sun
It's
god.
not murder if it's for apples.
Do love apples.
I do love an apple.
Sergeant Howie is in the Wicker Man. Dude, what about like thinking about being in his shoes, right? The whole fucking thing's crazy. And you come over that hill and you see the fucking Wicker Man.
Dude,
and like
that
the fucking dread on his face. He's like,
his reaction is so good.
Oh my God.
Dear
Yeah.
Christ.
that whole Wicker Man thing is fucking badass. That whole just the image of that thing is so fucking cool. And then how
And it's so fucked up because he's in there for so long.
oh yeah. I mean there's
It's
plenty
not
of
even
time.
close
It's gonna
to
take
quick.
a while to burn. I felt worse for the animals, of course.
I
but
thought that same thing.
yeah.
They were freaking the fuck
But
out.
it was still really cool how they had all of those separate little things, you know, for all the animals.
And I love that they went into the Wicker Man and like got his reaction as like the flames are coming up and he's like praying and just
super
like
cool.
Oh man.
Yeah, they're literally like out worshiping each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's screaming at them and they're doing their little dance and
Yeah. Man.
Oy.
Good fucking
King
movie.
for a day.
It is a good movie.
It just gives you so much to think about and it's just fucking
I feel like
now I know why it's such like a cult favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in 1973, with all of this kind of like blind faith stuff that we're talking about, I feel like it would have been controversial. I don't know if it was or not, but I feel like it would have been.
It must have been. Maybe that's why it kind of like has the reputation that it has. Yeah, especially 1973. To your point, is like just like the nudity and and even like his, you know, like the way he does present himself and introduce himself as a cop. I do feel like of that time there was a different sense of authority, like in respect, for lack of a better term, of like, oh, we have to respect him.
But
like
the 70s also started counterculture. So it may have been the perfect time for that kind of thing.
Totally. Like he represents everything that is like...
Yeah. And the nudity and all that, they were starting like the free love movement and stuff. So maybe it was, I don't know.
Well, I did see that there was like issues with its distribution when it was coming out, probably because of these topics and just like over the years, like them trying to put out different versions and restore the movie. And there's like lost scenes and alternate versions and all this stuff. But there's that thing at the beginning where they're like, I'm assuming it was on your versions as well, where it says like, the filmmakers want to thank the people of this island for like talking about their religion and all this stuff and helping with the movie. And
I was going to ask you guys about that. Was that supposed to be sort of like a Blair Witch, like
I don't know,
pseudo real, but it's actually not part of the movie?
I don't.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's not real.
Yeah, I didn't take it. I was like, oh, okay, like
yeah.
That's like fucking Rambo 3, where at the end they thank the gallant people of Afghanistan for their help, like making this movie. And that was, it was well before 2001 and everything. And so, but that was just like, hey, we came into your place. We're making this movie that has to do with you guys. Like, thank you for your help. And
has to do with you guys murdering people for apples.
Yeah. So I thought it was a legit, like, thank you for helping us make this film, because it was right at the.
I thought, I read it different. I thought it was like disorientation on like a different level of like, we're going to make you wonder if this is real, so that when we get into it, you're going to feel just as
like Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah. Oy. Yeah. It's like,
yeah, maybe that was it. So that's The Wicker Man. Yeah. So glad that we watched this movie.
Me too.
I will definitely be watching this again at some point to just take more in.
The Wicker Man, more like the Snicker Man. It's like, you're not you when you're hungry.
So, do you guys want to talk about the reveals in this movie, which are kind of
Danny's got them.
I wrote down my 2 favorites, but I don't know if they count as reveals.
Well, let's get into it.
What's going on here? I don't see anything anywhere.
That's how they get you. They're under the goddamn ground.
Yeah, I don't have anything, to be honest.
Okay.
I didn't have anything either because I didn't know who the fucking monster was.
Right.
Yeah. I just basically focused on anything that was like, I don't know.
Well, I guess you could focus on like things that like, you know, like him opening the casket and there's like a rabbit there. That's kind of like, oh shit.
I just have I have when the locals kind of reveal themselves wearing the masks.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it just felt like we're in it. Like they are like almost, I mean, literally in costume, but it's like, I guess when they all get like festooned in their
I love that.
Festooned in their sacrificial garb.
Mm-hmm. I guess a reveal you could say would be when he goes
I just got it, but
what?
The Wicker Man at the end.
What about
Would that count as like the monster reveal?
Oh,
no,
well,
because
I would say that's one reveal that I was going to say is when he sees the Wicker Man.
Yeah.
His death
because
place.
it kind of, if we can't figure out who the monster is, that's like the symbolic destructive like force, like vehicle for like everything that is negative about both sides.
Yeah. I was going to say one thing you could say is when he meets Lord Summerisle and he starts learning about their celebration and their festivities and their religion, and he's like, what the fuck? Like this goes against everything that I know about fucking God and Jesus. Like to him, that's like, you guys are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So it's not really like a scary reveal, you know, like in the thing, but it's like,
what do you guys think about this? And you don't have to agree, but for the sake of like our whole conversation being so about like covering both sides, like it all depends on your own personal perspective. Maybe it's just like, you know, Captain Howdy showing up. He's the monster reveal. Then when we meet Summerisle, monster reveal. And like anyone who's like a prominent figure who's kind of like leading the charge for their respective charge is like the monster.
Well,
that's a good point. Yeah.
I don't know.
Mine's just the foreskin dealer.
Yeah.
Just the reveal of the foreskins.
Oh, okay.
Because that's pretty monstrous.
It's a very difficult movie to pinpoint a certain.
Yeah, I like them all. I like
monster,
them all.
Yeah.
How's that? That's what I'm going with.
But speaking of pinpointing certain monsters, now it's time for a segment that we like to call the real monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me.
So I don't know what you guys have. Mine is very basic and pretty on the nose.
Basic's good.
I wrote down my real monster was Christianity, but it's probably just religion in general.
Organized religion, yes.
I thought you said Christianity. I was like, who the fuck is Chris? I'm not even like kidding. I was like, what?
You didn't meet that character?
You didn't meet
Christianity?
Mr. Janity?
Mr. Janity.
It's like the angel heart thing where you're like, Lucifer. You're like, oh, Christianity is the monster.
That's his name, Sergeant Janity. You find out later he's got like a name tag that says like Chris.
They're like doing the math. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, so Casey, you probably corrected me in the right way. It's probably organized religion is the real monster for me.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I also had organized religion, blind faith. But then also the again, really liked this movie. The dubbing in this movie, though, I did not like.
Flawless.
Because they did a lot of that. It wasn't good. Specifically, when Willow is doing her dance and her song, she would not even be singing the
her
same
lips
song.
were like this, but her words were like this.
She wouldn't even be singing the same song. So,
dude, I need to talk about that dance again. So she's like naked and she's supposed to be all like sexy, and then it's like a shot of her from the back. You see like her whole bare
that was
back.
a different person.
And she's like
seriously, that was a body double,
waving her arms up in the air. Oh my god!
Her hair is completely different.
Oh really?
That's so funny.
So I don't know why she was okay with showing tits, but she apparently didn't want to show ass and like her little roast beef dangling between there. So they got a body double.
Yeah! Oh my god!
This is Ice Cream Man all over
laugh.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean.
So
It was
funny.
like this was supposed to be like mysterious and sexy, but it was just so funny. Danny?
Oh, mine. I have 3. I have islands that don't serve apples.
Oh, it's a bummer,
guys.
Fuck.
If you're not growing it, order in. You know
what did she say when like he was like eating dinner and he was like everything's from a can, and she's like, what do you want for your afters? Is that what they said? Your afters? And he's like, how about some fucking apples? And she's like, we don't have any. He's like, what the
so
fuck?
many weird things happening. Afters,
She's like,
you mean
do you
dessert?
want peaches and cream? And he's like, I bet it's from a can.
The peaches and the cream are in a can. Yeah.
Actually, you'll find out in a little bit while I'm dry humping the door to your room.
Okay, so I also don't serve apples.
People who shame people's personal beliefs.
Okay.
So this is outside of the context of organized religion, which I agree with you guys. But it's the way he kind of comes in so hard of just like that's where the problems come from.
Well, of course. That's what
the
I don't
religion
have a
aspect
problem
is
with.
Fine.
Yeah,
exactly. As long as you're not fucking like trying to,
right.
It's not
Are
a
you
dick
using it for
measuring
good?
contest.
Great.
It's
If you're not, no, I'm not cool with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then my last one, which I actually added about 2 minutes ago, is non-consensual circumcision. Outside of religion, I'm not starting that debate. If that is part of your belief, you do what you got to do.
Which you could argue that almost all circumcisions are non-consensual.
Yeah. That's a great point. Unless you just want it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? You're like, I want to trim. I'm going for a little trim. Yeah. So, yeah, anyway.
Well.
The Wicker Man.
The Wicker Man.
The Wicker Man. So do you guys have anything else to add about The Wicker Man?
No.
Nada.
No?
I really, really, really liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. It was definitely a good watch. Something I will, like I mentioned this before, I will be watching it again just to kind of pick up on different things throughout. And
great way to kick off this new triple
feature. Around and find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like especially like one of like the quintessential folk horror movies. Just it's influenced so many other things, and I'm surprised that
I'm really
I had
proud
not
of our
seen
picks.
it until
I feel
now.
like we're getting a lot of flavors of the folk horror subgenre.
Tell me what's your flavor.
So our next installment of our Folk Around and Find Out triple feature, Casey, it is your pick. What movie are we going to watch?
We are watching Men from 2022. It is a British folk horror film written and directed by Alex Garland.
Ooh, he's good. I like Alex Garland's movies.
Very good.
He previously Ex Machina and Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, both are good. Yes, they are.
So, Casey, have you seen Men already?
I have. And
you guys have both seen it.
I love it, and I can't wait to watch it again, and I can't wait for you to watch it.
Yeah, very curious to hear Zach's. I mean, I'm curious to hear everyone's because we haven't talked about it, but it's.
I'm excited to see it. I'm excited. I hear that it's really good, and then I hear it's like really fucked up, and I can
excited.
See
why this movie would be pretty divisive.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I was happy. I was very pleased to have come up on the side of the, I liked it side.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I am looking forward to it. And listeners, you should be looking forward to that episode too, because I mean, if you just listen to this episode, you know how good this show can be.
Yeah, true.
That was super like fucking full of ourselves.
I think we opened with that.
I'm standing by it. I like our show.
I think you should.
So that is an episode that you will not want to miss. Until then, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all those things at How I Met Your Monster. Where can our listeners find you two wonderful hosts on social media?
I am on Instagram at WolfMotherCasey.
Okay, awesome. Danny?
And I'm on multiple social media things. I'm tired of listing them because the names are just so convoluted, and I don't know which one is which, and they're changing them. But I'm there, and it's just my name, Danny Salem. Danny, Danny Salemme. That's 2 M's, like the candy, melt in your butt, not in your hands.
Wonderful. And you can find me on social media at Zach Quinsick. That is ZACHWINCIK, just like the race that you win, but you got sick doing it. And it's not spelled that way, but that's how I used to tell people.
Sounds like windsock, not the same word.
Sounds like windsock. You can find me blowing in the wind against the pole
at the airport. Let you know the knots.
You can find me at the maypole blowing. You can find me blowing the maypole. So make sure to join us for the rest of this Folk Around and Find Out triple feature. And thank you all for listening. Now go meet some monsters.
Dear Christ. Oh, dear God. Dear Lord. No.